because he mentioned that he had such a high sugar, glucose, and they told him that they will let him go home when his sugar goes under 10, which is under 180 on the US units. But it was still hanging double that amount, about 360. And he was there for several days. They were, poking him, injecting with whatever, and couldn't get it low. And I said, so what did they feed you? And he sent me pictures of like chicken and rice, mashed potatoes, bread, things like that. I'm like, are they trying to kill you?
Lee, how did you find Carnivore?
Hi, Dave. And hi, everybody. First of all, I want to thank you for what you are doing. This is something that, in a way, it's a heroic act on your side, because you are doing the right thing even though everybody's looking. It used to be the definition of integrity was that doing the right thing when nobody's looking, but that's changed, mainly during the pandemic, when people were criticized, silenced, persecuted, threatened for doing the right things, protecting the human rights, basic human rights, freedom of speech, medical freedom, right for informed consent. So now integrity means doing the right thing even though everybody's looking. And I thank you for that. And hopefully with the new team in the White House, this movement will get more support and we will be able to make changes. And I know the changes are already happening, because what we are facing is a multi-billion-dollar industry that feeds on people being sick. And you are basically carrying a target on your back because you make a lot of people angry. You are doing worse thing than if you were just healing these incurable diseases. You are giving people tools how to cure themselves. And that's very powerful. So thank you again for that. Now, in order to answer the question, how did I get to carnivore? Well, of course, there is the long answer and the short one. The short one is Dr. Ken Berry. And I know many of your guests have the similar experience. But the long one, I need to go back a little bit in history. And I grew up in Czechoslovakia. I'm 57 years old, so that was a communist country. And I grew up in early 70s. I was very athletic, yet at the same time, I was a sickly child. I always had colds and flus. I was on multiple rounds of antibiotics. I was basically sick at least every month, at least once a month. I had sinus headaches all the time. Never knew why. So that was my childhood. Let's fast forward. In 1985, when I graduated from high school, I left the parents' house for military school, military academy. And surprisingly, the sinus headaches disappeared. So it could have something to do with the diet my mom was preparing, the cooking she was making. But I was still sick quite often. Then let's fast forward to 1990. I was 23. I felt that I really need to do something about my health. And on subconscious level, I felt the diet is something that can make a big difference for me, that I need to eat healthier. And of course, what can be healthier than vegetarian diet, right? So I went strongly. Well, back then, there was not much information about vegetarian diet. It was just avoid meat. So I was eating everything like everybody else around me in that cafeteria or other places, except I would take the meat, put it in the plastic bag, and took it for my dog. Other than that, I was eating just rice, potatoes, the dumplings, check meals. And on weekends, I would indulge myself in soy products, soybeans, the imitation of meat that was made of soy, highly processed. And so that was my diet, and I was really strict. I believe that the vegetarianism is the answer. Meat is evil. I need to stick with it, and my health will turn for better. Well, what really happened 2 years later, I started having blood clots, thrombosis in my legs at the age of 20, 25, basically. I was having these blood clots. Nobody knew why. They were addressed again with antibiotics. So let's move now to 1997. I'm 30 years old and I moved to USA. Early on, I
Sorry
had,
to interrupt. Are you still vegetarian at this point?
well, no, those 2 years of vegetarianism back then uh, gave me enough experience. Well, it was not experience, it was um, guidance, let's say, that I stopped being vegetarian at that time. But I came back to it later on. I'll get to that. Uh, so now in '97, I'm living in USA. Just got there, a lot of changes, and I had another massive blood clot, another thrombosis in my leg. Um, for I went to a doctor, and of course, then I learned the system there in the United States. They want to hook you up for life. So he gave me this blood thinner for you are gonna take this for the rest of your life and come for testing and so on. Well, I was not happy about it. So I tried different approaches. I discovered health food stores, and if it's a health food store, everything there must be healthy, right? So I was eating these granolas there, and I was self-medicating myself. I looked up what else can be thinning my blood, so I don't have to take these prescription medications. So I found cayenne pepper, garlic, ginger, vitamin E, things like that, aspirin. Um, so I was fighting it the best way I could for a number of years, um, but not really a success. No success. I still would have occasional blood clots for seemingly for no reason. Now, so I was on this kind of diet. Then I met a lady who was she was working at pizza buffet, and at that time she was able to bring some pizza home, leftover stuff. I was having dogs. I was fostering dogs, so that was I thought a good option how to feed them, and there was plenty left for us also. So I was heavy into pizza because it was available, it was free. Never thought anything bad about it, even though I was gaining weight and I did not feel too good. But in 2008, something really got my attention. I started having vertigo spells. Then I thought, there is something really going on. All of a sudden, I would have this feeling of, swinging of my head, and I didn't know what to do with it. Initially, I thought I may have brain tumor, but I was delaying the doctor's visit for a year, hoping it would go away. But instead, it was becoming more and more often, more and more common. And so initially, I had some episodes of vertigo, and relatively soon, I only had episodes of not having the vertigo. And that was a difficult time for me. Plus, I started having other issues with my memory. And then I discovered the term somebody mentioned somewhere, brain fog. And I thought, oh yes, this is it. I never heard that term, but that really described what I was living in this brain fog. So I sought some help with medical field. Good thing was that they ruled out the brain tumor. They just said I have a cyst somewhere in my brain, and don't worry about it. But you don't have a tumor. And the doctor gave me some funny exercises, but basically he said, you need to learn to live with it. That's it. That was his solution. I kept searching in different medical specialists, including, let's say, healers, alternative, and nothing was helping. Plus, I started having more health issues. So we are going to move to the 2012, the end of the year 2012. Now I have also joint problems. My right knee, left hip, terrible pain. I could walk on the flat surface, but it was a struggle for me to go upstairs. And I'm only 41 at that time, right? I'm sorry, 45. And I have problems walking. And I didn't think it was related. It was just unrelated problem. I had the problem with my brain, and I have problems with my joints. Two different things. You don't put it together. And it was actually December 21st, 2012. And for people who are in the spiritual circles, they understand this is a very important day. I was sitting in the office thinking, okay, I'm dying, because I have a list of other symptoms that I had. This is the list of other symptoms I had. I don't think I need to read it all, but just leg cramps, frequent urgent urination, ringing in the ears, skin rashes, headaches, leg swelling, dental issues, body odor, chronic fatigue, constant vertigo, irritability, EMF sensitivity, food sensitivity, chemical sensitivities. So this is just few of the things that I had, and I was not finding the answer anywhere. After 4 years of trying to consult the other people, healers, doctors, so on, I did not find the answer. I came to the point that I said, okay, I'm dying. Okay, I'm dying. And I may die soon, but if it's up to me to find a solution, I have to take control of it, and maybe I will die. That's fine. But it's going to be me who will find the solution. Nobody else will do it for me. So that was an important date for me in my life. And I went online, I started searching. And I found some kind of forum. They were discussing people with basically the same or very similar symptoms that I had. And I thought I was really the only one at that time, because you look around and all people seem normal. Only I was having this internal storm going on all the time, not knowing what to do with it. And everybody around me was normal. But then I found that there are probably thousands of people with similar symptoms, unexplainable symptoms like that. And somebody mentioned Candida diet there, Candida diet. And you may know, Candida is basically a fungus or yeast that can grow into fungus, and it can take over body under certain conditions, cause a lot of problems. So I started looking into the Candida diet, and at the same time, I went to see a specialist about my knee, right? And he ran some tests, MRI and X-ray and all that, and his conclusion was, oh yeah, you have a torn meniscus. You have a torn meniscus, that's the problem. You will need a surgery. Here are some painkillers, and when we are ready, come back, we'll do the surgery. So I left and just started this Candida diet to fix my brain, right? I needed to fix my brain. So I went on this Candida diet, and which was actually later on, or pretty soon, I realized it has something to do with paleo diet. That was a term, that was a thing back then. So that even made sense. But what was the most surprising thing, 4 days later, I'm sitting and my knee is not hurting as much. It feels better. 2 weeks later, I was jogging again, and I never had the surgery. So apparently, it was not torn meniscus. There was something completely else, and I would go through this useless, pointless surgery. I would just believe what the doctor told me. So that gave me another boost in distrusting the medical community, I must say. However, it did not fix my brain at that time. Little did I know that it takes much longer for the nerves to repair than the joints. And maybe if I kept going, I would be much better off. So I went back to the drawing boards, but I knew diet has something with it. I knew that now. It was a confirmation. I had something to work with. All of a sudden, after 4 years of dead end medical advices, I realized that I have some control over my health. So, and I went back into searching the diets, and unfortunately, I started slipping back into the healthy diet. And it's greens, juicing, smoothies, detox, raw food, fruitarianism, and so on. I even went to get a detoxification specialist from a naturopathic doctor in Florida. He's quite famous. I don't need to name him. And I felt terrible the whole time when I was there. I even, it got to the point that I was constipated with just bananas. And I felt terrible. Yet I believed, and I kept pushing. And then I discovered, in 2014, I discovered fasting. And I must say, I think the reason why we are talking now is fasting. That saved my life back then. That saved my life, that I was able to do fasting, and it worked wonders for me. And I have several 21-day water fasts under my belt. Then I discovered pranic living, people living on prana, meaning that they don't eat at all. And I said, okay, this is the answer for me now, because obviously food is making me sick. If I can only stop eating the physical food, I'll be done. I'll be fixed. It'll be all perfect. And I had several, they call this 21-day transition, 21-day process. I tried a number of times. I even lived without food for 4 months. And I must say that from 200, I was 245 pounds originally. I went down to 145. So even though I felt wonderful, it was not sustainable, at least for me. I do not dispute, or I do not question the possibility of living on prana. It's about as crazy as living on animal products only. So yes, I think these people are living like that, and I have no problem, but it was not for me at that time. But what it brought for me was a different look at spirituality. And that I see still as the greatest gift of this whole journey, that I was able to connect with my higher self, with God, with the spirit. Because when you are fasting, and it's a common practice in many religions, fasting is a common thing in many religions, you are starting to connect with your higher self. And for somebody who came from communist Czechoslovakia, had a military background, completely atheist, I switched. So it was the biggest gift for me, this gift of spirituality and connection. So even though there was quite a bit of suffering on my journey, I'm for always grateful for this gift in a way. So I see it as a positive thing for me. I even discovered on my journey, I discovered modalities, things like healing hypnosis. There is something called quantum healing hypnosis technique from lady's name. Her lady's name is Dolores Cannon, or was. She died in 2014, I believe. And I took a course. I do the sessions with people now, and it's just amazing. I have no doubts about what really the reality is and what illusion we live over here. So it was great for me. In 2017, well, actually, I need to explain. In 2016-17, that's when I had to basically stop working. But because I was so heavy into this fasting, really extended fasting, I started feeling better. To the point that I was able to start working again in 2017. So, and things started accelerating as well. I worked for a couple of years, and then in 2021, so that would be, I was 44. I mean, sorry, 54. My father back in Czech Republic was sick, and I felt that it's important for me to come back to Europe from United States and take care of him. And I did. And that basically started my transition moving back to Czech Republic. So in 2023, last year, I was already living in Czech Republic. I quit the job in US and starting to make my life here. And I met this lady. She's amazing. She's very spiritual. She's a healer herself, spiritual healer. And in a way, she is more living on prana that I ever have. Her diet was rather interesting. She was able to live on ice cream. She would just have maybe a couple of ice creams in the evening once a day, and she was doing great. Her health, and she's about my age, just 1 year younger than I am. She would just eat the ice cream, and she had plenty of energy, hiking, working till past midnight, seeing clients during the day, doing emails at night. She was really something to admire. So for a while, I followed her diet with her, but it was not working for me at all. I felt worse and worse, the chronic fatigue and depressions and so on. And then it was just about a year ago, we went to have a dinner, even though we normally don't go to eat out. It was like a birthday party. And so I had the same food she had. There was a pasta with some cheese, vegetarian pasta, cheese, and some oil in it. I ate it and I felt horrible, horrible, thinking it must be that that those sugars, those carbs in that meal that made me feel so bad. Maybe I have diabetes or something like that. But I'm not going back to doctors. After what I know now, I'm not going back to doctors. So I went into Dr. Google and YouTube, and that's where I find Ken Berry talking about diabetes and how keto, back then it was keto, heals diabetes. And I said, well, that's the solution. This is it. That's it. And I started learning more about ketogenic diet. I discovered Dr. Boz. She has a book online, free book. It's called, let me see, Facts. Fat can save your life. That's it. Fat can save your life. It's free, and it was actually first thing that I translated into Czech because I was so impressed with that book. And I said, well, this is it. Keto is the answer. I'm gonna eat cheese and tomatoes, vegetables, and it's gonna be it. Well, there was slight improvement. But then I was around Christmas time. I went to visit my son, and we stayed a couple days with him. And in order for me to stay keto, I took some packages of cheese with me, and it was this aged cheese covered with that fungus, and again I felt horrible. I felt horrible eating that. So I said, okay, this keto is not for me. Let's see what else is out there. And finally, I discovered there is a version of keto diet called Carnivore diet. And now even Dr. Berry was talking about it. I mean, obviously he did before, but I didn't see the videos. And they have started discovering other names, Dr. Anthony Chaffee, Sean Baker, Philip Ovadia, Dante. Then I found you, Bella, the what is it?
Steak and butter gal.
Steak and butter girl, and so on, so on. And So it was a relatively easy choice for me, decision for me. Okay, I just need to go strict. And this is how I discovered Carnivore. Yes. So it's going to be a year now, basically. It's going to be a year now that I'm on Carnivore.
Wow. And in that year, anything that was an issue before has cleared up?
Okay. I can say that pretty much everything either cleared or greatly improved. And it was not easy stuff to do, or easy journey to do, because I discovered that I had to go really strict. At the beginning, the B, 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 and E did not work for me. It turned out that I still react to eggs. I still react to bacon. So there was definitely some histamine issue, some food sensitivity. And I had to go, I was basically limiting things that I could eat till I ended up into what's called the lion diet, ruminants, ruminous animals, mainly fat, and the meat. And so what improved? Well, maybe it's too much information, but my stamina and libido, sex drive improved at the beginning. That was very obvious. My girlfriend was happy about it, and but other things too. The depressions lifted. I did not wake up depressed in the morning anymore. I started waking up singing. That was unusual. Um, I used to when I took take a nap in the afternoon and then I woke up, I would just kill myself. There was such a dark cloud there. Now it's gone. It's gone. Just like the Homestead Hall, Kerry, he talks about it, how wonderful it is not to live in these depressions. Um, my my strength, little by little, improved. So I live over here. It's not. It's next. It's a small, extremely small village, and I had to basically do everything by myself. It's like I have to chop the wood and things like that, take care of the garden, and I'm able to do it now. What used to be before, just reading an email, answering an email was a chore, something that I would hate. Now I go and I feel like I'm gonna work out. I feel like working out, and I'm gonna go and run in the woods, and I go chop the wood and do some repairs and lay the floor in the room and things like that. I returned back to my hobbies. I used to do plastic model airplanes all my life. That was my passion. Um, and then, towards last several years, I couldn't do it anymore. I just was not interested in anything. Now I enjoy doing it again, right? So I really started doing translations, not just spiritual stuff, which I do, I enjoy that, but also other things. So my life really changed. I know my vision is better. The urinary problems disappeared completely. That was really quick also. I still have some, I think I'm still waiting for the nerves to repair completely, and it's just a matter of time. I know that. Now I know. Interesting thing to happen, I just remembered now. Several years ago, I broke my tooth, but because I'm missing already a lot of teeth now I know, due to the diet, my dental health was terrible. I really don't want to lose that one. So I was trying to nurture it with different DMSO, dimethyl sulfur oxide, different stuff. And for years it was sensitive. Every time when I would eat something a little bit more chewy, it would get irritated. It was painful, but I kept it there. And this year in spring, after being several months on carnivore, I started having pain there. And so I already talked to my girlfriend. I guess I'm going to have to go with you to the dentist appointment, because they had scheduled the appointment already. I said, I'm going to go with you and I'm going to try to ask if they can pull the tooth. But this was still 1 week from when the pain started, and it was pretty intense. But shockingly, after the 5 years or so of intense pain, the tooth healed. Broken root healed. After 2 or 3 years, it healed. I have no problems with that. I didn't have to
So,
go to the dentist.
so you mean the pain just went away completely?
Yes, it just healed, and it's not sensitive anymore. The tooth, it returned its color. It's like broken bone in a way. In a way, like broken bone, it just healed. I did not have to go to a dentist. So that was one thing, one like a proof what the carnivore diet does to my body. So if I have any future discomforts, it's okay. It's okay. I could rest on that, knowing that this is my body healing. Even though it's not always pleasant, it is my body healing. And so currently I'm having some pains in my lower extremities, in my legs, my calves. It's not the joints. But I know I had neuropathy there. And I believe, I know this is what healing is. It's the nerves are regenerating there, and the swelling is gone. I can walk. I can do long walks, but I know these pains are there for a reason, because it's healing.
And that neuropathy is there from the clots.
Um, could be, but I think it was some kind of underlying diabetes that was never diagnosed. Yeah. The same
I
thing with my
see.
vision.
Yeah. So how in the last year, how have you been eating? Like you're basically doing lion, but are you eating once a day, twice a day?
Um, it depends. I'm a big believer of understanding what's going on, not following somebody's advice or pattern, but understanding the concept. So I understand now the ketosis, what it does. I understand that if I have too much protein and not enough fat, the body will use protein as fuel. And the only way it can do it is change the protein into glucose. So that would kick me out of ketosis. So the amount of fat is important more than amount of protein. I tell people, if you feel that you are under eating, you want to increase the amount of food, go heavy on fat. If you feel you are overeating, you want to lose weight, reduce the protein amount. But always stay heavy on fat. So understanding the concept. Also another thing, eat when you are hungry. And stop when you feel you are full. So I don't have any set schedule. Sometimes I eat in the morning, hardly ever, but mostly I would start eating maybe at 11, or and then I would have second meal in the afternoon, or I would eat once a day. And I try to include also days of fast, at least once, maybe twice a week. I would be fasting 24 hours. So I don't have any fixed schedule, but as long as I follow that mental concept that I made myself, avoiding the pitfalls of our cravings and giving up to cravings, and that works for me.
And what does your girlfriend think about all this?
Um, yeah, that's something I will get to it also later. I would get to it later, but um, I started. I'm trying to give what I got, right. So I started this Facebook group, Facebook face Facebook group, and I try to collect the information there and make it available to the public in Czech Republic and Slovakia. We understand each other, and it used to be one country, Czechoslovakia. So we still feel like we are brothers. So it's for people of Czechoslovakia. So, and because of me living in the United States for 26 years, I feel that I have the tools now to make the translations. And I have this group. Now we have about 120 people only, and it's not active as far as discussion, but I know people are reading it because I have hits 70 hits a day. So I know people are, because it's connected to a website where I have the translations, and there is one in Czech, one in English. They both get a good number of hits every day. So I've been trying to spread the news, including the videos, your videos. I take the script of the video, feed it to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will make the story that would include all the important information. Then I edit it to make it more user-friendly, human-friendly. And then I publish it, and I include the original video. So that way the source is there. People can look up what the person really said. So there is quite a bit of authenticity. And of course, it's helping me to learn more because I spend a lot of time listening to these videos, and hopefully it's helping to others as well. And I had a situation, it was spring, early summer, late spring this year. We had a little WhatsApp group of my classmates from college. And one of the classmates wrote a message there, guys, I'm in the hospital. My sugar is 31. That's about 550 in US units, extremely high sugar. And I contacted him and I said, well, maybe I can help you. Maybe I can help you with that. And he reacted right away. He called me and he was willing to listen. He was willing to hear what I had to say. So I sent him some of the material that I translated. He read it. And I also asked him, what do you eat over there? Because he mentioned that he had such a high sugar, glucose, and they told him that they will let him go home when his sugar goes under 10, which is under 180 on the US units. But it was still hanging double that amount, about 360. And he was there for several days. They were, poking him, injecting with whatever, and couldn't get it low. And I said, so what did they feed you? And he sent me pictures of like chicken and rice, mashed potatoes, bread. things like that. I'm like, are they trying to kill you? And so I sent him the material that I translated, and he was ready to read it, to study it. And so he did, and then he wrote me, okay, I understand what's going on. My wife is bringing me bacon, and I'm not going to eat the food over here. It took 1.5 days when his sugar was below that number, and he was able to go home after being there for almost a week. All of a sudden, 1.5 day, he went home, and he continued with that. And he decided to stick with it. And even though the doctors told him, okay, you're going to have this so many units of insulin injecting 5 times a day, and fast insulin, slow insulin, this is what you are going to be doing, and so on. He, on his own, he started reducing the amounts, and he kept measuring the glucose level. And 2 months later, he realized he doesn't need the insulin at all. And his blood sugar was perfect. And on top of that, his high blood pressure went back to normal. He was able to stop taking his blood medications. And not only that, he was able to get back his medical certificate as a pilot, and he's flying again Boeing 737. Which would be completely disqualifying if he was on insulin. You know, so, and you ask about my girlfriend. Well, that's a pretty complex story right now. It's a success story, and at the same time, it's frustrating. My girlfriend has a daughter, 33 years old daughter, young, beautiful, smart lady. This daughter was diagnosed with end-stage kidney disease. And the doctors gave her the only possible option is to get a transplant. Dialysis, transplant. And it would be much better if you have the transplant before you have to start dialysis. And you and I know, and you had some guests who cured their kidney disease with Carnivore. So I tried to introduce that idea of different approach to her. And unfortunately, she is somebody who took it completely the wrong way. She took it as an attack on her. She hates me now for trying to help her. Well, but I know that everybody's doing the best they can, thanks to my spiritual journey. I understand that everybody's doing the best he can with what he has. So I don't judge her. This is her decision. However, she expects somebody to give her the kidney, and her mother is the most logical donor. So she had to go through some tests. She had to do some tests to do that. And during these tests, she discovered that her health is not as great as she thought. She's anemic, vitamin D deficiencies, and some other issues. And because she see what improvement I received from Carnivore, she is in transition to Carnivore. So this has been 2 weeks when she greatly limited the ice cream, and she started eating meat with me. And as a matter of fact, I just received a little grill that she's gonna have, so she can prepare the meat. She doesn't have to cook in the big oven, and she's on her way. I didn't try to push it on her, but she is on her way to Carnivore or animal based diet, for sure. Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. And that is an amazing story about your friend. You allowed him to keep his pilot's license. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. And I have another, I mean, I don't even know who has been touched by that Facebook group, by the stories. And there are a lot of stories from you there. Okay. There is also Canberry and other people, but there are a lot of stories uh, from your guests there. Um, but I have another couple. They are this the lady. She's a daughter of my cousin, and her husband contacted me some time ago repeatedly that he basically hates himself for being so tempered, even violent with his wife, and then he regrets stuff and and finally I got to understanding that the diet has a lot to do with it. So I said, well, it may sound crazy, but what about if you try to avoid these sugars and go more into meat heavy or animal based diet? And there is some good research, Dr. Chris Palmer being one of them. There's a good research that would show that mental problems are really metabolic problems. And they both changed the way they eat. And I went to see him actually on just a couple of days ago. And he said, the life is so much better. She lost weight. She lost weight. I like her much more, but I'm also much more peaceful. And she's happy too, of course. So it completely changed the dynamics in the family. And he was very happy with the changes that are happening. So even that helped. This is what I learned on Carnivore in that 1 year journey so far. So the Carnivore is a therapy, not just a diet. Nobody does Carnivore out of boredom. People need to have a strong enough why to do that. What I also learned that small details make a big difference. The last 5% that I had to do to cleaning my diet helped 95% of my symptoms. In order to do this, you need to change your mind first before you change your behavior. Because if you don't believe in this diet, you will be trying to find reasons why to quit. So education about this diet is extremely important. Understand what is ketosis. Understand the concept of carnivore. Understand how important fat is. The fat is the king in this diet, really. Also, understand that the carnivore diet is not about eating a lot of meat. This is elimination diet. And the meat is only something to keep you functioning and healing. But the main thing is it's elimination diet. And again, the fat is important. Understand that some people may need to go deeper into it. Some people are sensitive to histamine, oxalates, spices, coffee, tea, dairy, pork, chicken. That all may happen. And I had to go all the way. And probably I suspect it has something to do with this MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome. And it will get better. With time, it will get better. Then I discovered something called PKD, Paleolithic Ketogenic Diet, team of experts in Hungary who in clinical conditions heal the most serious cases of cancer and other health issues, health problems with this uh, fat-heavy carnivore diet. And so just stuffing yourself with meat is not carnivore diet. There is a little bit more to it. And so I recommend everybody to look into this PKD, Paleolithic Ketogenic Diet team in Hungary. Then I realized that there is a connection between spirituality and this diet. When you fast, you are in ketosis. When you do carnivore, you are in ketosis. And I used to think that spiritual people certainly don't eat meat. I look down on people who ate meat. They cannot be spiritual. And now I think exactly opposite. I think that plant-based diet actually keeps you disconnected. It keeps you scared. It keeps you obedient. It keeps you docile, and it keeps you disconnected from that higher source. And that's why this vegetarian diet is so encouraged by so many religious institutions, because that's what they want. They want to manipulate people just like the establishment. So it gives the carnivore diet can give you the freedom. Also think or remember that the nerve damage takes longer time to repair. So be patient. I realize that fat doesn't make you fat. If you are in ketosis, you are in that stage of burning fat. If you are not in ketosis, you store fat. So fat does not make you fat. Find what works for you and what is financially possible. Something that you can maintain all the long run. And you will find actually that you save money on carnivore. Everybody did. They found out they save money on carnivore. Don't be afraid to experiment, because even the leading influencers, they evolve, they make changes, they tweak their diet. For me, I learned that raw fat and raw meat agrees with me. It may not be for everyone, but I had to go to this extreme. And I know I'm not the first guest on your show that said that they prefer eating raw. And raw beef is my go-to. Once you decide that this is a possibility for you, the changes you make must be big enough to make a difference. Because if you just do little bit over there, and you still feel bad, you still don't see any improvement, it will not keep you doing it. Another thing I discovered, that the biggest critics of this carnivore diet are those who know nothing about it, or those who never tried it. So be ready to defend yourself with knowledge. Be ready to take control of your health, because nobody else will do it. Another thing, I found that the healing is not always pleasant. There will be some pains, there will be some crises, but just keep your eyes on the prize. Stay connected with the community, and most of all, take control and responsibility for your health into your own hands. Because there is a major communication disconnect between the public and the medical community. We go to doctor because we expect them to help us. They see us because they think we want to buy something from them. So that system is not working. The system is not working. And this is how we can change it.
Very well said. So, Lee, is there a way people can reach out to you? Can they contact you through
Yes, I
social
will
media
provide
from your
my
Facebook
email
group?
address and also the name of the Facebook group
Mm,
that people can visit.
awesome. So I'll put those in the show notes.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us today, Lee. I really appreciate your time.
It was absolutely my pleasure, and I hope this is going to help at least one person.